All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the call this afternoon. We're really pleased that you took the time to join us. Um, I guess depending on what part of the state you're in, you have different type of weather conditions. I'm here in Manhattan in New York City, and it was raining and it's overcast and not the nicest of days. But I hear in the Finger Lakes, it's quite sunny, or at least you got the Finger Lakes sent the rain down to New York metro area. So anyway, uh, my name is Sam Filler. I'm the executive director of the New York Wine Grape Foundation. I am joined today by Oscar Bink, Charlie Marshall, and Hans Walter Peterson. We're inspired to do this because a lot of the other wine regions across the United States have been doing these Zoom chats, and I participate on a bi-weekly call with Wine America. They bring together all the state and regional associations for a check-in call, and many of them have been using these fireside chats or town halls to great effect, not just for the associations to speak to their members, but for the members to have a forum to speak with each other and have a dialogue and share best practices, or share concerns that are happening during this challenging time with COVID-19. And we actually we experimented with these a little bit with the wine trails. We did a couple calls last month just before reopening began to work through some of the various questions and issues that were arising, and those proved to be really a great forum, not for us to talk, but for everyone to connect and just share what was going on and how their trails were reacting to reopening and COVID-19. So with the spirit of this being a dialogue, all of you who have logged in, you are muted, but please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question or something you want to say. We will have some introductory remarks, and then we'll open it up as a dialogue. And we do intend to continue doing these throughout the future, because I think I feel, the board feels, and the staff feels is the important role for the foundation is to be a convener and a convener of the industry, and to provide a platform where we can all connect, because even in normal conditions, it is a large state and it's hard to have everybody in the same place. And I could speak from personal experience, since I commuted to the Finger Lakes twice a month, and it's a lovely 5-hour drive through the state. But it's challenging to do that on a consistent basis. So, well, before I introduce my other panelists, I just wanted to add, I know the foundation has often looked to being a voice for the industry, especially with state government. And we have this unique relationship with the state because we're created by state law. We're funded by the Department of Agriculture, so we have a very close relationship with the state, and I think that's a good thing. However, there is sort of limitations to the extent of the advocacy that we can do for the industry. So, because we are primarily funded by the state, we're prohibited from political activity, taking strong political positions, working on people's campaigns, etc. So, we do our best to be a voice for the industry, but, I'll just say, when it comes to an issue like wine and grocery stores, it's not something that, we can particularly be out in front on. And I know that there's a mixture of opinions on that, but that's one of the main issues that comes to mind. Partly because that if we took a strong position, that would jeopardize our funding with the state, not just because of their own rules, but because of other interest groups that exist in the food and beverage industry that do not support pro position on that. We work with other groups like the Finger Lakes it's the New York Wine Industry Association, that's currently led by Erica Palicelli as their board chair. And that's really an organization that's set up to serve as more of the pointed stick, I would say, on behalf of the industry. They can needle the state with more aggressive language than we're probably in a position to do, but we work closely with them and share intelligence and do our best to get the state to work in the best interests of the wine and grape industry. So with that said, I'm excited to introduce Charlie Marshall, who just became our board chair as of June 1st. And Charlie is the owner of the Marshall in New York City in Hell's Kitchen. And he has been a long time supporter of New York wines. And he joined our board just about 2 years ago. So he's in his third year. He had a rapid rise to the top, which was actually, he was the one that was eager enough to raise his hand and say he wants all the responsibility of dealing with the, organizational fun and headaches, and working with me to keep moving this thing forward. But I think actually most importantly is as a restaurant owner, he has a unique perspective as to what it takes to promote local wines, and how we really need to solve this question as an industry is, why don't more restaurants carry New York State wines, and what can we do to work with the restaurant industry to better position New York wines to be on the list and be available by the bottle. And this is not an issue for New York City, but it's a statewide mission that we need to address. And Charlie actually was recognized, I think it was 2014, 2015, as our I'm slipping on the word. What is it? Our maybe Val, you can help me. The Unity Awards.
Excellence in excellence in promoting New York wine as part of a fine dining experience. I think was the title. What we got was quite a while ago. It's still on my wall. I read it.
So we're excited to have Charlie step into this leadership position, and he succeeds Kim Wagner from Stout Ridge Vineyards, who deserves a huge debt of gratitude from me and from all of us, because she really spent the past 3 years working with me to modernize the behind the scenes operations of the foundation to make it a stronger organization. So we are able to, make this pivot to take a stronger place in helping to market New York State wines, and, helping to, be more aggressive in terms of how we work with the restaurant industry. So hopefully she's teed Charlie up for success and all of us up for success. And she was supposed to be on the call. So just if you ever have a chance to see her in person or at Bev New York, please thank her, because she put in a lot of time to, help strengthen the organization.
I'm on.
Also, all right. Hey, Kim.
Don't say anything bad. I'll hear you.
Nothing but good things. Thank you, Kim. And then I'm also pleased to introduce Oscar Bink from Herman J. Weimer. He's the owner, co-owner, and he also recently joined the board. He's in his second year, and I also convinced him to take on leadership with the organization. He's going to serve as our treasurer, and we're excited to have him on board. And he has a valuable experience in terms of working with on-premise and off-premise accounts, and really, I think, supporting the vision, the direction that we want to take the organization. And then before I allow them to introduce themselves, I'll just conclude. We also have Hans Walter Peterson on. I don't think his title does fairness to how influential he is, but he's the viticulture specialist, viticulture extension specialist for the Finger Lakes Grape Program, and he is a great partner to us, and a great partner to the industry, and excited to have him on board as well. So I'll turn it over to Charlie to just kind of share a little bit about himself and his vision for the organization, and leave it at that.
Thank you, Sam. That was a very nice introduction. And I'll continue your thank you to Kim. I do hope she's left me teed up for success with all of us. I think that's for all of us to see. But she's been just invaluable, and she's still helping a lot with the organization. I can't really express my depth of gratitude for how much she's helped me be, I hope, ready for all this. For those of you who don't know me, I know I recognize a lot of the names and faces on this call already, but my name is Charlie Marshall. I'm the chef owner of the Marshall, which is got one L. My name has two. I'm not a complete egomaniac. And it's a tiny little restaurant in Manhattan. We do everything with wood-fired oven. I grew up on my parents' farm and in their restaurant in the San Juan Islands in Washington State. For those of you that may have seen the San Juan Islands, it's kind of like it reminds me a lot of the Finger Lakes, except instead of water surrounded by land, it's land surrounded by water. But the culture is very similar, and it's a very, very cool place. And the Finger Lakes has a very special place in my heart, mostly because every time I go up there, it reminds me of home. But because of the way I grew up, I wanted to open a farm-to-table restaurant. And to me, having a farm-to-table restaurant also meant having a local beverage program. So when we opened in 2013, I'm pretty sure we were the only restaurant in New York City at that point that had a 100% New York wine list. And our bar program was all Northeast. It wasn't all New York, but our liquor was all from the Northeast, a lot from New York. And that's how my love affair with New York wines began, was being under construction and having different winemakers and those who work for them coming into my restaurant and introducing New York wines and their passion, and hauling it all the way to the city, either from the North Fork or from the Finger Lakes or Hudson or wherever they were coming from. And it's just kind of been a fun journey ever since then. I was first exposed to New York wine by some friends who were just really, really into it. And it started a little bug in my head saying, well, we could do this. Now, in the last 7-8 years or so since I've had the restaurant, the quality of wines coming out of New York State, the variety of wines, the level of talent, and the level of local interest by consumers has just grown and grown and grown. I think all of us can remember a time in New York when it wasn't the easiest sale, just being a New York wine with some of the local consumers. And now there's a real eat, drink, local movement. And I think that the COVID crisis is going to continue to kind of help push that forward, people wanting to support the people they know, their local communities, keeping their spending and their money close. But it's something that we've had success with for 7 years. We have over 100 New York wines on our list at any given point. They change here and there. And I'm really looking forward to helping that. I hope bring a lot more New York wines into restaurants, into liquor stores, and make it feel like when you go into a liquor store in California, it's like 50% California wines. When you go into most restaurants in California, it's like 50% California wine. And that's what we need to get to here in New York.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm going to turn it over to Oscar.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is actually, I'm smiling here a little bit. I have some friends I haven't seen in a while, but I have to wave to. Hello, Michael. Same thing here as Charlie. I know many of you on the call here, so it's good to see some familiar faces and names here, which is what we need now. And many of you who are in the wine industry, you're probably hustling to get umbrellas and chairs out on your patios for the weekend here. So we're doing the same thing here. But yeah, I joined New York Wine Grape Foundation just last year. Last year I think it was. You know, being I've owned, been part owner here around Herman Wiemer for about 13, 14 years now, but I've been involved with Wiemer for 17 years. And for you who know me, then you know I have a business partner, Fred Merworth, who's the winemaker, and the two of us are then running now both Herman Wiemer and Standing Stone, that became part of Wiemer here just a couple of years ago. So Sam had asked me to join, which I happily did. And I think one of the contributions that I'm hoping to have is to have a little bit more of having a finger on the pulse of the market. and while we are advancing the messaging of New York wines, I think I'm coming in with, as Charlie said, with a rather positive approach to New York wines. I'm noticing a lot of good vibes across the country entering markets, but even locally, we need to convince even the local retailers and restaurants to carry more local wines. But it's also goes hand in hand with that the quality is increasing exponentially. So it's also actually becoming easier to introduce New York wines into other markets. With a little bit of experience dealing with distributors around the country, I also now, you're changing your strategy a little bit about to not need to maybe convince people. It's almost a strategic talk you do with distributors. And I think I can help with that, and also help again with the voice of New York wines, both locally. And so that's kind of my 2 cents here for the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. Then Sam also asked me to be the treasurer, so I need to look over the finances, which is also rather positive, actually. It's been interesting to look where the funds are going, what we do at New York Wine and Grape Foundation. And I do welcome, now I'm fairly new to it, but I've jumped in the deep end here to analyze these things. But I'm welcoming questions that people might have, because I think Sam gets, for lack of a better word, gets bombarded by questions. Where does fund go? Where does our tax money go? And so forth. And it's quite eye-opening to see how much bang for the buck you get as a member for New York Wine and Grape Foundation. It's only really 10% that is contribution of the full budget. It's only 10%, about 10% that is contribution from members' fee. So if you're a member of New York Wine and Grape Foundation, you almost, 10 times your money on the impact. A lot of money goes to research, of course, but there's a lot of good initiatives that's happening. So what I'm also looking into do is to optimize our funds. So they're being efficient, the funds, and optimize and maximize the funds, and maybe come with creative solutions. So we are being efficient with it. So that's what I'm looking forward to do. And that's for now. But I'm here for questions.
Thank you, Oscar. And I'll turn over to Hans.
Hey, everybody. Well, I guess kind of like, unlike Charlie and Oscar, I know some of you, but not quite as many as you. Obviously, because I work kind of with the people down in the cellar and out in the vineyards more than the folks doing the sales and marketing stuff. So, but it's good to virtually meet a number of you. I guess the only things that I'll mention real quick, for those of you who might not know what extension is, the kind of short, sweet way I like to talk about it is that we are a bridge between Cornell and the industry. And so we're kind of the first faces that are meeting with growers, in my case, with grape growers, and talking to them about some of the problems that they're seeing in the vineyards, and trying to offer solutions, goals that growers have about changing their practices, and basing our recommendations and our suggestions on research that we do and that other colleagues of ours do, and whatnot. So we're really about mostly focused on the production side of the equation. But so that's kind of how I see our relationship with the industry. We really kind of have, and it's a really kind of a wonderful thing for me personally, because I get to have kind of one foot on the academic side, which I really enjoy, and kind of the learning and the research parts of that. But I also get to have a foot in the vineyard with the growers and understanding what their issues are, and how do we get our research to be as relevant as possible for the industry and to meet the growers' needs and challenges out there. So, so it's a really great, I love this job. So so that's basically what I do, and I work with grape growers. Kind of how we have these, how extension works in ag commodities around the state is mostly by regions. So basically, we partner with multiple counties, and so my program, for example, partners with 6 counties right through this kind of the middle of the heart of the Finger Lakes region. So we go from Wayne County up by Lake Ontario, through Ontario and Yates, Seneca, Schuyler, and Steuben. So kind of all the way down to the Pennsylvania line. I think one of the things that I just want to highlight and about us and the foundation is that this relationship between the foundation and Cornell has been a long-term one. There's been a lot of partnerships for a long time, and it's growing under Sam's leadership and with the board. The partnerships that we've had for a number of years, the foundation has supported the wine analytical lab at Geneva for a number of years and still does. And that lab has been expanding its services to the point now where it is a certified TTB certified lab. Does a number of analyses, does really important work. The number of samples that run through there every year continues to go up. And I think knowing the number of samples that have been going through there, I think that has quite honestly had something to do with the improving quality of the wines over time, is more places taking advantage of that service, which I think has been really important. Kind of on the more recent side of things, just this past year, for the first time, the foundation has always been helpful to us with our Bev New York conference. But this year they really kind of stepped up to the plate even more so, especially Val, with helping us organize the business agenda, the business program for the business day at Bev New York, and really just brought in some great knockout speakers. Ray Isle was our kind of keynote speaker for the day. The journalist from, or the writer from Food and Wine magazine, and just a number of other really great topics that the foundation really is better suited to pull together, because kind of sales and business and marketing expertise is really right in their wheelhouse. Like I was saying before, those of us, myself, Chris Gerling, and Anna Catherine Mansfield, who are my colleagues on the enology side of things, are, like I said, we're much more in the production vein, and so we're much more comfortable pulling together talks on yeast and barrels and sanitation and pest management and all those kinds of things. But Sam and Val and the staff at the foundation really stepped up and produced a really quality program this year, and it showed in the number of people we had. We had the highest number at the business program as we've ever had. So I'll stop there, but I just wanted to kind of highlight a little bit about what I do in my role, and just how the foundation and Cornell have been in partnership for a long time. And like I said, thanks to Sam and his leadership and some of the other staff and the other staff members has been really strengthening over these past few years. So
thank you, Hans, for those kind words. And if you're interested, if you missed Bev New York, or you're not based in the Finger Lakes, we have those videos from the business day available on our website, or might be posted to the Bev New York website. I don't know, Val, can you help clarify?
Yeah, we have them. I think they might be on our YouTube channel, but we can send everybody here a link. Great. Sure.
I do want to recognize we have another board member that's joined us, Amy Opiso from Lieb. She is newly appointed to the board as of our last meeting. Amy. So, and she's from Long Island, if you're not familiar with Lieb, and so we're excited to have her join and bring her marketing expertise. And I don't know if you want to say anything, Amy.
Hi, everybody. Hi, May. I see one of my other team members on here. How are you? My name is Amy Opiso. Like Sam said, I just joined the board. I am the general manager of Lieb Cellars and Bridge Lane Wine. Russell, our winemaker, was my predecessor. in this seat on the board, and he asked me if I would be willing to get involved because he felt like my marketing background could be an asset to the foundation. So I spent about 8 years working in advertising and marketing at big agencies in New York City and Chicago before I moved back out here and started working at wineries. So I kind of always tackle everything with a marketing focus, and I joined the promotions committee. So I'm hoping that I can hopefully help out there. And just in general, I felt I had served on the board of the Long Island Wine Council for a little while, but felt the need to be better connected with what was going on in the rest of the states, in other regions in New York. So when presented with the opportunity to do that through a board position on the foundation, I was and I am really excited about it. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Amy. I'm happy. Oops, sorry. I'm happy to open it up at this point to questions from you all. I did want to just say we thought we could frame the conversation today really around reopening and some best practices around that, operational things that folks are doing, reservation systems, or I know there was some funny guidance about if you're phase 2, you can only do outdoor service with temporary roofs, not fixed roofs. Hans and his colleague Tim Martinson did a really good survey of growers and wineries about their business expectations for the next year. And maybe the attitudes have changed a little bit now that reopening has been moving a little bit more aggressively, but I think for sure sort of being shut down for 2 months certainly had an effect on the industry, even with online sales. So I would turn it over to Hans for him to just give a little update on that, unless someone's got a burning question they want to ask. All right, Hans, take it away.
Yeah, so this, a couple of us kind of were putting our heads together about, and this kind of just came out of a couple of conversations I had with growers and winemakers earlier in this spring about kind of, predicting what's going to happen over a summer, and as you get to harvest is hard enough. When you throw in a worldwide pandemic and whatnot, it makes it even that much harder. But we just wanted to try to get a sense of what the industry was kind of thinking as far as what, mostly from a standpoint of trying to give growers some information about what the market might be looking like, at least at a certain point in time, because growers need to kind of be thinking about what if, when harvest comes, growers have already put all of their expenses into the product, and harvest is kind of the last expense of the season. And so if there were going to be issues in the market, it's better for growers to know that early rather than late. And so that was kind of the idea behind trying to just get some sense from the industry about where things stood. And so we created a survey with the help of Kevin Martin, who's the my colleague out in Western New York, works with farm business management issues, and Greg McConnell, who runs the Winery Benchmark Project for Farm Credit East, who serves on my advisory committee. And we kind of put this survey together with Sam's help and some editing as well, to kind of give us a sense of what people were thinking about the market at this particular point. And a couple of interesting things came out of that. Probably the biggest thing is that, and this was mostly open in late April, early May. So like Sam said, things are changing constantly, and so maybe take it with a grain of salt. But back then, almost 85%, I think, if I have the numbers right, somewhere north of 80% of the wineries that responded said they were planning on reducing their purchases of grapes this year. And in the Finger Lakes, my region, and where we had the most response, somewhere almost well over half of those wineries were looking at least a 25% reduction in their purchases, if not more. So now, granted, there's always the concern about, or not concern, just the fact of surveys of who responded, who didn't, and so we don't know, are all those wineries that are under 5,000 cases, are a few of those 50,000 case wineries, because a 10% cut on a 50,000 case winery is much different than a 5,000 case winery. But so I think that's an important thing for us to be aware of, those of us who work with growers and the growers themselves, is that there's going to be less buying, very likely. And it seems kind of obvious, but it was just good to put some numbers to that. One of the other questions that we asked, and I'll just mention this real quick, is kind of what are the varieties that at this point, are people having trouble moving? The two that came out on top of the responses that we got were both white vinifera, both Riesling and Chardonnay. Those are the ones that people were having some concerns about moving. If those of you who have been involved in the industry might know, last year growers had a tough time pushing Riesling, getting all their Riesling purchased last year. We had a bit of a surplus. Some of that is due to it wasn't a big crop by any means. It was a decent crop, but I think there's still some lingering after effects of the huge 2017 crop, and so part of what also came out of the survey is that inventories in a lot of wineries are very high compared to where they usually would be, partly because just business slowed down. Because of COVID-19, but also because we have this very high, we had a lot of inventory from past years. So I guess those are kind of the things that kind of jumped out to me the most about the survey. From that is just that there's going to be a reduction in buying this year because of inventories and kind of that carryover effect of larger crops. And so we're trying to talk to growers now about how to deal with that. What are some things to think about in ways to either help them to market their grapes in other places, or just reduce their farming costs a little bit so that if they can't sell everything, they're not hit quite so hard. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to. I don't know if there are, but.
Can I maybe add a few things?
Please, Oscar.
Maybe not only fact-based. It's a few what I've heard a little bit. Also, maybe a question back to you, Hans. Having a nursery here where we graft at Weimer, we also noticing another trend from producers around the country. What their feeling is. Or where their confidence is when it comes to buying vines. And we were positively surprised how few people canceled their orders. We almost had a 10% cancellations, and that was based on replants. So that's replant. Many local wineries like, you know what, we can survive another year. There's insecurities out there, so survive another year for replant. However, people who have commit to a new establishment followed through with that. And I think what we see from the nursery side here, we see that there's a commitment to rip out a few vineyards that we planted in the late 90s and early 2000 that we might not have had best material. We planted Pinot at certain places, and people actually found a good spot, but they will plant that. And I think what people want to plant is Cabernet Franc, of course, and Chardonnay, and we see much less Riesling, establishing Riesling. And that back to Hans's comment, we actually think it relates more to the decent, very high crop we had in 17 and the decent crop we had in 19 inventory. Since the confidence sits in the nursery, we might actually think it's more towards the volume that we have more than COVID. That was just a a comment and note what we have noticed here. Another aspect too is that we have seen Pennsylvania and Virginia struggling. They've had tough frost springs here. So since I'm an optimist here, there might be opportunity to get some of your grapes sold to other states. If there might be need, there might be demand somewhere else. Just throwing that out there because that's what we've heard from growers around the country because of they're struggling in some other markets.
Yeah, we've heard the same thing, and actually, I can't remember who I was talking to now, but they were talking to somebody about getting some supplies from Virginia somewhere for something, and basically the people in Virginia, it was somebody with a winery, said that they basically had almost no fruit because they got hit so hard with the frost, and he just happened to ask this grower, you know, how are you guys faring? And he's like, we're good, and so there's I think and so this person's kind of like, well, call me in the summer, let's see if we can figure something out. So I think it's one of the things too that we have, some of you might know, some of you might not, that my program runs an online classifieds listing for the industry, for the New York industry. And we're going to try to encourage, I'm going to try to encourage my colleagues in other states where some of that happened. I think Ohio and Michigan also had some shots of frost too, if I remember right. That service is out there, and that people in other states who are looking to buy New York fruit, because other states don't have that 100% state product requirement that New York does, for at least for our farm wineries, would be able to, you know, post ads on there to advertise
I'm
their fruit.
obviously not promoting us selling New York fruit somewhere else because we need it to promote the product. But
no, exactly. No, I mean,
I hear Sam
but
must
if you
be
have
fuming
access,
in there.
no, but it is a mechanism.
I'm talking about prices, where so farmers have a little confidence in pricing.
Yep.
It's important. Back to your question, what do we invest in here, right?
Yep.
When we move forward, it's a confidence question in the market.
Yep.
Let's keep the good stuff, please.
Yeah. This is Tim Martinson. If I could make a little comment, I think the one thing that our survey really missed was what's going to happen with some of our major suppliers, like I think National Grape. That's a cooperative, but the big question is Constellation, and what's going to happen to their purchases this year. And I haven't heard anything at all about that, and I think our survey doesn't miss that. But obviously, many growers who sell to small wineries also sell to Constellation. So if anybody has any information about that, I'd be interested in hearing it.
I don't. Sam?
I don't. I mean, I think it's a complicated issue, and especially with the transition with the sales at Gallo, which is expected to close this summer. I mean, I know they're continuing to operate the winery in Canandaigua, and I just think there's unfortunately a lot of uncertainty with that because the deal is still. I mean, it's going forward, but they're it had to change, and so it's difficult.
We have a board member who then have relationship with growers and so forth, maybe have insights. Maybe we can get back to you with a little bit more of a qualified answer. Again, having the finger on the pulse here. So let us get back to you with what we can find out.
I mean, I guess to put it on an optimistic note, the foundation is technically not just about wine, it's about table grapes and juice processing, and the Concord industry was in a crisis 4 years ago, and there was an oversupply of grapes, and and there was declining consumer purchasing, and we worked with the state to host a Concord Grape Summit. We worked very closely with Welch's on developing other types of products that they could, develop, particularly like kind of fresh grapes to be sold into schools, selling more of their bulk juice to wineries, because there is a lot of consumer interest in the Midwest in kind of a Concord grape profile wine. And I think COVID has partly benefited them too, because there's been an increase in juice consumption. And I guess I wouldn't say like it's still ideal for the growers that grow Concord grapes. It's definitely, the market's declined, but they've rebounded and have endured changes in the market. So I think this is not based on any particular expertise, but I would think that there'll be some bumps in the road in the transition between Constellation and Gallo, but the market will find a way to rebound, as it's done with the juice industry.
Yeah, I think in talking to a couple of my colleagues out there, the growers who sell to the processors based out in Western New York, so like National Grape, Growers Cooperative, some of the other processors are out there. They're probably feeling as secure as they have in a while as far as their market position, which is like you said, Sam, a pretty big turnaround from just a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, since we wanted to talk about reopening a little bit, and I don't know if I can put her on the spot since we have her, but Kim Wagner, if you want to share anything from the perspective of the Hudson Valley and your wine trail there, and how you guys are preparing for reopening.
Sure. As I actually create several of my tastings to go, since we're in phase 2 now, so I think each winery is in a different spot. Each one of us is making a slightly different choice as far as what we're comfortable with and what we want to do. As Sam alluded to earlier, there's challenges with fixed roofs versus temporary roofs, and whether or not somebody wanted to actually go through the expense of pitching a tent for customers that might show up for 2 weeks. So everybody's making a different business decision. But all in all, I think as a collection, we're looking forward to it. We're very close to New York City. Clearly, there's a lot of demand, and God, we have our fingers crossed as we update our reopening plans and our safety plans, and we stock up on hand sanitizer and all that fun stuff.
And since we have some friends from Long Island on the line too, you guys want to share anything about how you're preparing for reopening?
I can, Sam. We actually reopened Leaves Cellars tasting room for outdoor service yesterday. We made no announcements about it. We're kind of treating it like a soft open. So we didn't send an email. We haven't posted on social media. But we did change sort of the description on the Visit Us description on the website, and we've had a lot of people calling. But we kind of felt like for these 2 weeks, hopefully before phase 3 happens, we wanted to keep it quiet so that it could hopefully be managed, and we could manage the amount of guests coming. It was, without having made any announcements about it, honestly, it was a little bit too busy yesterday for our comfort. We had combined with sort of the patio, which we have like an open awning over, and the tables that we have lined up outside of the patio, with the patio being at 50% capacity and everything being spaced out by 6 feet, we can, if every seat is full, we can seat about 60 people. And we basically had that amount of people here yesterday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So it was okay. We did manage it. We have a lot of protocols in place. And today it's raining, so there's no one here. So it's kind of like we got a breather. But I mean, we're encouraged by a few things. One is that the customers all seem to be like very friendly and very forgiving of some of like the service delays and stuff like that. I think they're just happy to be here and be out. And two, the fact that, you know, there were so many people here with that. We didn't know what to expect. Would people sort of still be scared to go out? Were they itching to come here? Are we going to see the type of business like later this summer and fall that we normally see? So I think we're encouraged by the fact that there certainly seems to be enough guests that want to come out here. Now we just need to take these next couple of weeks to kind of refine service and our protocols to make sure that when phase 3 happens and we open for full service, there aren't any issues. But so far, so good.
Good. I know, Oscar, you and I talked a little bit before we started the call on some of the changes you're making, and Finger Lakes is reopening tomorrow. And
that's right.
Yay.
We just got to go ahead for phase 3 now. And I think it been a little rough road the last couple of weeks. I mean, back to we got a phase 2, and then everyone ran out and bought umbrellas. And then a couple of days later, we could be inside, so now we have all too many umbrellas. So we had a little like we also, I think it's pretty good to just start a little slow to feel things out. We're actually doing a little staff training now to get going. But back to what we said, what we're noticing is people are very positive. And we've taken the approach to be the welcoming grown-up. A lot of people come and they don't know what to expect or don't know how to behave. So clear signage, welcome people. It's okay. Come here with a mask. You can be without mask over there. And everyone's following instructions. But they just need to get instructions early, but not bombarding them with instructions. And we're not trying to contort ourselves into a pretzel to do all these walkways and strange things out. They need to be a little easy. And I think people just want that now. They just want to get out. We've seen now, so Finger Lakes is now on hustle mode today and tomorrow to get some, since we're opening phase 3 today, to get, and I've seen very creative solutions. I saw 3 brothers, Erica, they did a welcoming video that they posted, which was great. So people know how to ease into it. We have by the glass, we have half glass, we do carafes. So, and then we go and we have a over-the-counter service. So we put the order on a table, people go and get it. They get to hang out, but then we can also socialize a little bit. Kind of finding solutions. I know Dr. Frank did a little bit of stations that you go to also. So people are being creative. And I think as of now, the reservations we're getting for this weekend, it's all joy and happiness for now. So good vibes in general here. I don't know how many people we will get. There's people still being careful, but I think overall very good. So, yeah. And then the other thing we talked about a little bit before was reservations. Now most of us are going after reservations. We have to do reservations only. That is going to be a hot spot. Our phones are going to, all the wineries' phones are going to go ring, call, and call, and call. So that's something that you have to figure out your management of, is all the phone calls that you have to handle or emails. So that's something that we notice fairly quick when we send the email. Yeah. But I think maybe, we talked about this before, Sam, maybe York Wine Grape Foundation could be a little spot where we gather best practices on what people do or ideas, if it's flights or welcoming and hospitable behaviors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know after Monday.
There are already little things that we're realizing that, like things that we're doing that we could share with other wineries. And we've been doing that within the Long Island region. Just to give you an example, we bought a bunch of generic, I think, surgical face masks that are cheap. And we're giving them out to guests that come that don't have one for whatever reason. Some people still don't realize that they need to have one right now when they come to a public space. So rather than having to kick them out, we just said, oh, we have some here. we can give you one if you'd like to come in. So just like little tips like that, having, you know, little busing stations at the end of each table so that we can just put their glasses or their little flight trays on there, and they can pick them up and hand them to themselves, so that we're not having to reach over people and get too close to people to put down whatever we're serving them. So little like kind of tips and tricks like that. I think it's probably a good thing for us to be sharing with each other.
So Cornell did a really great webinar last week. They had 480 people participate on. They put together a very comprehensive set of reopening guidelines. And you see Hans had sent a question to the group is, you know, how much are wineries incorporating, you know, those guidelines into their reopening plans?
We are.
I mean, we are, but I think the thing is, if you read the guidelines as written, it sounds like you need a staff of about 6 before you can even open the tasting room. So, you know, I can't imagine on a Thursday afternoon right now, you know, having 6 employees sitting there for the sales that we're currently doing. So I think there's a little bit about creativity, you know, there's a spirit of it, and then there's the written thing. And so, you know, I think people are going to play multiple roles, even though it's as written, it says not to cross roles.
And I also, I mean, Hans and I had checked in on Wednesday morning, but I got a couple of questions from folks about this guidance to have, you know, 1 customer per 200 square feet or something like that. And some wineries emailed me, they're like, is this going to be the state rule? Or, you know, I can't open my tasting room if this is the limitation. And, you know, I think the great thing about the Cornell guidelines is it's really, if you want to be as, you know, precise and clean as you can be, that's what they present. And I think, you know, they don't want to put you at risk of doing something that might make you liable, but you know, I think it gets back to, you know, these are guidelines, and use your best judgment and use them to the best that they work in your winery. I don't know, Hans, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I know they got a fair bit of feedback after that webinar, based with the same kind of questions. Kind of like, you know, best management practices, best equals optimal. Optimal does not always equal practical. You know, so I mean, there's the understanding of, you know, they were asked to put together from a public health epidemiology kind of safety standpoint of what the guidelines might be. But like you said, Sam, every place has to put together what makes sense for them. Yeah. So
I think the phrase I like is use your best judgment. So hopefully you all have good judgment. I did want to share one update that I had sent out to the wine trails before we started this call. I received a question from the Keuka Lake Wine Trail about live music, because I know sometimes wineries have that as a nice amenity to have for guests. And so I clarified with the governor's office if this is permitted in phase 3, because theoretically it's a normal practice or operation of when your tasting room is fully open. And so, you know, their guidance was, you know, again, common sense, keep it small, intimate. You know, you really shouldn't be promoting concerts, because that's where you're going to get these large and uncomfortable crowds and the potential for the virus to spread. So it's permitted. It's just, you know, again, just common sense, keep it small, intimate. I'm going to take a little liberty here, and I'm going to call out some other people I see in the list here, the McCarries, because I heard through the grapevine, I don't know who told me this, but that you guys are doing gangbusters with your online sales and curbside pickup. And I'm just kind of curious, since, you know, we started with Hans and his survey about, you know, what are business expectations like, you know, since that's been going so well, how has that changed your business model? Do you expect that to now be a core part of what you're doing in addition to your tasting room? So I'm pointing that out to Alex and Gabriella if you guys are on and hear me.
Hey, Sam, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. Hosting this, obviously, it's really important for us, and Gabriella here. I think that, yeah, it's the time to. I was thinking about this while we were talking about I think the most important lesson we learned is CRM and data and looking to our loyal customers who have been fans for years and turning to them and realizing that in this time, people actually really did want to buy wine. They did want to hear a friendly voice over the phone, and they wanted to hear from us. And so we really see our wine club members and people that we work with sort of as extended family. And I think that that really helps support the digital sales and curbside pickup and just shipping in general. And it was a massive learning experience because of the fact that no wine CRM, no wine point of sale is perfect. And we've had a lot of issues with the back end. And there have been a lot of challenges, but ultimately what I think we've learned is staying in touch with people who have been loyal to you for years and years and years will go a very long way. And I think that in reopening, you know, we're holding off right now. And we are continuing, you know, calling and reaching out, and it's, you know, we're running a wine club shipment right now, and everyone's adding wines to their wine club. You know, not one person has said, just send me the wine club. Everyone's adding selections. So I think that this is it's a fast, if you follow, you know, Silicon Valley Bank, I would encourage everyone to read those reports. I'd encourage everyone to kind of see what's happening in California. And that's what we, as a family, have been doing, just kind of listening and reacting. And yeah, it's been a lot of work, a lot of data management, but just reaching out and saying hello has gone a long way.
That's great. And they also, Silicon Valley Bank did a special update. I think at this point it was 2 weeks ago, an hour session, just, you know, reviewing what's happening in the wine industry since COVID started. And, you know, nationally wine sales are up, I think 29%. And I pointed this out in my press tech message that went out yesterday, which is, you know, 55% of wineries nationally are not even using the customer data that they already collect just out of tasting room operations. So, you know, the foundation's aware that we can help support the industry by providing some more training and resources to, you know, help everyone understand how to better leverage the data that they already have. Because I mean, I think everyone has seen, like, there's a lot of potential with online sales and engagement with your customers that way. It is 5 o'clock, so I wanted to respect the fact that it's happy hour. You might want a glass of wine, or if you live in New York City, you can get a Negroni from Chef Charlie, which I might do. Is there any final questions or comments that anyone wants to make? Charlie, you have any closing words?
No, it's just great to see everybody, and I'm glad to hear everybody's having their own measured success, however appallingly stressful it is. Keep it up, guys.
Oscar, anything?
Yeah, just wishing everyone good luck. And I think what I said initially, I want to promote that we are here and available for any questions that people have. I am semi-good with emails and phones, but please reach out if there's any questions. And let's continue sharing. Hopefully there will be successes after this weekend here when we're dealing with the public. But so good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Kim. I'd just like to say to both Oscar and Charlie, thank you so much for stepping up. You're going to do a spectacular job. And I'm not going to die or anything. I'm still here in the industry, and I'm still on the board for a little bit. But thank you so much for being willing to step up. We're all going to be better off because you do. Thank you.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks, Kim. Hans, you got anything else you want to say, or we're good to go?
I think we're good to go, but just thank you everybody for letting me be here, introduce myself to you a little bit, and thanks for selling the wines and keeping the customers engaged so that we can keep farming is a viable business in New York.
Excellent. And thanks everyone for joining. And I think the next one we're going to do of this is going to be in early July. So stay tuned to follow-up email on that date and time. And we have more exciting things we want to share with you. So thank you and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.